Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 12th of September. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined for the first time this week by Joshua Barry. How are we doing, Joshua?
Yeah, good, Derek. Speaking off air, saying we're tentatively looking forward to the football coming back. Maybe not, but looking forward to talking a bit more maybe now this week about what can happen in response. I think last week naturally just the inquest will continue into this week as well, but yeah, a few interesting things to touch on today as we look ahead to the game of the weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, the international break coming to a conclusion. Game obviously at Hampden tonight, Scotland and England, in that 150th anniversary heritage game. But I think we're all itching. Well, I say we're all itching. I know there's a number of people that would rather not be watching Rangers in the current form at this moment in time, but I think as soon as the domestic action comes back, I think everyone will be quite happy about that. Now, Michael Beale is a man under pressure. We all know this. And ahead of the game at the weekend, not an easy place to go, Joshua. Perth. Was speaking with Chris on the show yesterday. It's where Giovanni Van Bronckhorst lost last season, which sort of was the beginning of the end of his tenure. And Michael Beale will be aiming that he doesn't come back down the road with nothing less than 3 points. It is must win for me. He has to win this game, but he has to make changes from what we've witnessed so far already this season. I know we're only 4 games into the league campaign. However, that 50% record is not good enough. Of course, the PSV result was not good enough. Celtic result wasn't good enough. The Kilmarnock opening day defeat wasn't good enough. Pre-season wasn't really good enough. He has a number of things on his to-do list, I'd imagine, heading up to Perth on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Must win for so many reasons. Not only because, as you say, Derek, you've already lost 2 games, but you look back to last season and Rangers had a couple of damaging results around just before Gio was sacked. And by that point, Celtic were able to establish a lead that Rangers were never able to claw back. I don't think Celtic look as strong so far this season, but you can't rely on that, and that strengthens the argument even more that Rangers should be in a better position than they are at the moment. So 12:30 kickoff away at St Johnstone, not always the kind of environment where I think you're going to see Rangers play their best football, but I think pressure's not only on results, but also real, I guess, clarity about performances, and people want to, I guess, get excited about watching Rangers. And after August, which had a lot of games and could have went really well, and in the end, obviously didn't, ended in the worst possible way. The only way to I guess build momentum, build trust is by winning matches and doing it in a pretty convincing fashion. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, as we'll get on to today, Derek, to see what team Beale goes for away at St Johnstone, because as we touched upon quite a lot last week, I think the amount of changes that happened over those 9 games in August didn't help, despite the fact that there's a lot of new players coming in, there's different matches, there's a lot of matches in quick succession, so you're going to have an element of rotation all the time. But I don't think we could say clearly this is Rangers' strongest 11 yet, or you can really see relationships building between these 2 players, or the striker's clearly first choice and deservedly so. I think heading to St Johnstone at the weekend, I'm going to be interested to see the team that's put out, because I'd imagine that over this international break, one of the things that will be worked upon is having a bit more definition around what is the starting 11 that Beale wants to play in the majority of domestic matches, and hopefully you can stick with that a little bit more starting at the weekend.
Yeah, I know you wrote a piece on the fact he's had 9 different starting 11s in the opening 9 games of the season. But I imagine he will have a different. He'll be having a different starting 11 for his 10th game heading up to Perth, I'd imagine. And now we've got a couple of teams that you've rustled together, Joshua, about what we could potentially see at the weekend. Do you want to fire team number 1 up? How Rangers could be lining up?
I realise, Derek, that I've not put Roof next to Dessers, so before everyone shouts at me in the comments, you should, where there is Barisic/Redvan, it should read Dessers/Roof, so apologies for that. But yeah, I mean, I've just drafted up a few different options, Derek, as to, I think going forward, Rangers need a clearer, I don't think you need this is a starting 11 and it never changes. I don't think that really happens in modern football. But I think if you look at all the best teams, they have a clear idea of this is how roughly we're going to play, and this is who's the best in any given position. So a few different teams, and we'll talk through the possibility of a back three, because that's also something else that has been brought up quite a lot. This team, give or take, Dessers or Roof, and I've put Dessers in there because a lot of money's been spent on him, and Beale's played him. I think it's 8 out of 9 games he started him in, but let's put a Dessers/Roof there. I think this team is probably, we've seen it against Servette at home, and we've seen it against, who was the game after that? Livingston at home. Obviously, it was Barisic at left back, but remains to be seen who plays there going forward. And if Ridvan comes in there, I think it really changes the dynamic of what Rangers can do on that side. A Cifuentes, Raskin, Cantwell midfield is something that's quite exciting. I think it links into people's viewpoint with what a domestic midfield, Rangers midfield should look like, because it's really offensive. It's very different to kind of what Gerrard started out with, for example. It's a much more offensive midfield, and I guess it takes time to find that balance. But really essential to these three attackers, Derek, who a lot of money has been spent on, and the only one we've really seen consistently so far is Cyril Dessers. I've been confused as to why we've not seen more of Danilo so far, because I don't think there's too much that Dessers has that he doesn't. I don't think Rangers have really played in a way that relies on Dessers' physicality. I think Danilo's a really good presser, and he's quicker, although I don't think he's going to carry up the pitch. And that comes into this question about this front three. Does it have enough pace to play every single domestic game? I think Danilo does have a bit more pace to move off the back of defenders and to create space for himself in the box. So definitely, I think going forward, I know you and Chris spoke about it yesterday, that's something that I'd like to see more of. Cantwell in that position, we'll get on to it. Is he best at number 10? Is he best slightly deeper? I think that can alter game to game. Sometimes I think when he's deeper, it suits the team because he can kind of run it from deeper in the pitch. He can get on the ball more and he can join in with the attack. Lammers has been signed to play that number 10 position, and I think it's fair to say he's yet to convince people. But again, he's not really had a consistent run of matches, so it's difficult to properly judge for me. That front three, without having someone who's going to really stretch the game, who's going to carry you up the pitch, maybe they can in different ways, but who's going to be a real threat of pace and behind the opposition back line. I think that needs to be countered with the ability of someone like Cifuentes to run beyond, or even Raskin, which I think we've seen Ross County away when it was Roof in that front line alongside Lammers and Dessers, but you had Tavernier and Raskin going beyond, which gave Rangers the ability to stretch the opposition's back line. And then finally, just in this team, Raskin, is he the number 6 going forward? Is he not? Sometimes I think that he's a little bit erratic with the ball in that position, and obviously he wants someone to take risks. I think when you're at the base of midfield, but maybe being slightly higher up the pitch suits him, and maybe he needs to mature into that position. When I spoke to his former manager for a piece at the start of the year, he said he's not a kind of sitting number 6, and he just kind of explained that his game isn't natural to him sitting and controlling. He wants to be involved. He wants to press aggressively. So I guess, I don't know what you think on it, Derek, but I guess that's probably, if you said at the start of the season, what do you think? What team do you think Rangers are going to go for domestically? It'd have been some variation of this, and I'd probably expect to see something in this shape at McDermott Park, give or take maybe Kemar Roof being up front, because I'm very much in the camp that if he's fit, Kemar Roof should be playing.
Yep. There's lots of comments coming incidentally about the team. Some agreeing that is a good team, Joshua. Some differing in opinion. I think Rangers need to be more radical than what they have done. Cyril Dessers doesn't start for me. There's a lot of comments coming in saying, where's the pace? And I understand that. Where is the pace? Rangers have very little pace, especially up top to get in behind. Rabbi Matondo, the only real one really with lightning pace in that team, which is worrying, I've got to say. Sam Lammers, for me, that's a big call up at McDermott Park. It's going to be a roll up the sleeves job. I'm not entirely sure it's his. It should be his environment. He should be able to go up there and show how good a player he is, but I've not been convinced so far. So Cantwell gets that shirt for me if he's fit. Fingers crossed that knock he sustained at Ibrox in that Old Firm game isn't going to keep him out for any length of time. We'll get the update from Michael Beale later on in the week. Nico Raskin has been out of form so far this season. He has to turn up and show why he was brought to the club. Cifuentes coming back in, yes, he's had another. Has he been away with Ecuador in this international break? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if he has, but the couple of weeks extra bedding in, settling into life in Glasgow, and that ties in with Chris Jack's excellent piece on the website this morning, folks, where he spoken to Mark Haitley, Alex McLeish, Marco Negri about settling in at Rangers. Hopefully Jose has done that in the last couple of weeks. So they've Cantwell in there in that midfield, and then it's just to whoever plays. I reckon Michael Beale will go with either John Lundstram or Ryan Jack. I've got to say, just something in the back of my mind. I think he will do that up front. Danilo, yes, and Kemar Roofe starts alongside him. Kemar Roofe start as one of the first names in the team sheet until he's not fit enough to start for me. I've not seen enough of Des or Sima, another one. Impact player for me at this point in time. Left back's an interesting one, and I've seen lots of comments come in about who should play at left back, and some saying unhappy that Bona was playing for Croatia. Crouchy here with a point. Good to see Bona getting an injury-free 90 under his belt last night. It'll be hopefully. Listen, he's had a steady start to the season. Was it a strange one when Michael Beale said he would be fit in the squad for the game against Celtic? Then he was jettisoned, wasn't in that squad, not even on the bench, and then get called up for the Croatian national team. And the Croatian manager says that his injury wasn't serious. So I can understand fans' frustrations with regards to that. Ridvan, don't think... it's created a lot of debate. Denzel with the point on Ridvan says, sorry, Josh, I know you're a believer in Ridvan, but I'm not sure he's anything like we need at left back. I keep hearing people saying he needs to get a run of games. Joshua, he had that run of games at the tail end of last season. I thought he did okay. You caveat that with the fact that it's all dead rubbers, nothing to play for. It's a big call left back, I think, at the weekend. If Bona's fit, I think Bona plays.
Yeah, and obviously Dujon Sterling played there in the last game before the international break. I thought he was actually probably one of the Rangers' only decent performers on that day, but I don't think he'd be first choice because he's not naturally left-footed. There's lots of things that could change. Obviously, this is a few. We've got another example as well, but a few different examples to provoke talking points, which is always good. But if you bring Rabbi Matondo in, obviously you don't then that kind of play two back-to-goal strikers. Abdullah Sima, I think he's looked more comfortable off the right-hand side when he's played as opposed to the left-hand side, Derek. Dessers, I think, justifiably could be dropped because I don't think his impact's been good enough for the minutes he's played, but Beale's played him a lot, so logic tells you he might continue to be one of the first picks up front. This selection, which would have a Jack or a Lundstram Jack in this instance at the base of midfield, would free Raskin up a little bit more and maybe give Rangers a little bit more balance. But I agree with you. I think at the moment Barisic probably is first pick. Ridvan, although he's not had a consistent run of games, he's not really been able to seemingly consistently stay fit either, which I guess comes into that discussion. And he did do well those run of games towards the end of last season, but they are kind of meaningless games, aren't they, where the pressure is off. Even if it's an Old Firm at home, it's a different level of pressure to what we witnessed a couple of weeks ago. Another interesting one, Derek, is there an argument that Rangers should be playing a back three? It's something that I've seen a lot on social media over the last few weeks. So again, different players could fill in different positions here. It could be a Danilo and Roofe up front. It could be Lammers and Danilo. It could be Dessers and Danilo. I've put Cantwell in that number 10 position because I think that would work better in this shape. But you've got three defenders there. I mean, Rangers haven't looked great defensively this season. At times, I think they've struggled for natural width, though. So theoretically, if you give a little bit more defensive cover, if you allow your fullbacks to start higher. Michael Beale spoke a lot about a back three ever since coming back to the club, whether it be this season. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, he said people should get used to seeing a back three more often. If you were to play Davies, Suter and Goldson together, it's three players who have the ability to break lines, whether it be Davies passing or Suter carrying the ball or Goldson going diagonally. It would maybe negate somewhat Rangers' lack of kind of pure number six who's going to sit in front of the defence and dictate play all the time and allow Raskin and Cifuentes to play together. It still allows you to play two strikers, but maybe for the narrow kind of attacking shape that Rangers want to play, Beale always speaks about is wanting to play as attackers closer together. Maybe this would just free them up in that sense, but also give a little bit more cover at the back. And it would be quite, I think, a statement if he came out and went with a back three away at St Johnstone. I don't think he will. He might play a team that starts using the back three build up from the start, but I'd be surprised if there's 3 centre backs in the team. But the fact that 9 different starting 11s have been picked so far, I think tells you that there isn't a clear strongest 11, or there has been the need for, if there's not enough pace in that front three of Danilo, Dessers and Lammers. We've only seen it from the start twice, but if there's not enough pace, then that needs to be adapted for when you go away in Europe, and then does that extend to the league as well? So the back three is potentially a possibility. I do think that Rangers have definitely the players in the back line for it, even if beyond that, there's not much depth at centre back beyond those 3 players.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are quite happy with it. I think it has to be something as dramatic as that formation change, I think, for Michael Beale to turn this around. Just put entertaining football on the pitch for people. At the moment, it's a real slog watching Rangers. There's nothing really entertaining about it at this moment in time. I see a lot of people saying 3 at the back. Now, it's not... I see this leveled a lot. Chris Redhand, there's a few other comments as well. 3 at the back against St Johnstone, come on. It's not necessarily more defensive just because you get 3 centre-backs on there. A host of teams down south play attacking, entertaining football, play with 3 at the back. I've covered Bolton for the last 5 years, or 4 or 5 years. They've played 3 at the back religiously since Ian Evatt took charge. And they play, it's one of the most expansive style of footballs that you'll see down south. So it's not necessarily a defensive formation. It's reliant on the wing-backs bombing up and down the flanks. And I know there's been debate about whether Tavernier's lost a yard of pace. Can Borna do that? I think Ridvan would be more suited to a back three, I've got to say. But it's not necessarily a more defensive formation, and then it's reliant on the centre-backs stepping forward with the ball and getting involved with the play. I know that John Souttar is quite comfortable with the ball at his feet. Ditto Connor Goldson and Ben Davis also, although we've not really seen Ben at all this season. It remains to be seen if he will at the weekend. But I think it has to be something radical like that, Joshua, because at this moment in time, the Rangers fans... I would say probably the majority of them have lost faith in Michael Beale. I know there are some that still reckon he's a man to turn it around. If he continues doing what he's doing and not changing things up, then it only ends one way.
Yeah, I totally agree with your point on 3 at the back, because you've got someone like Souttar's probably one of the best. If you're looking at someone who can carry the ball through pressure and progress, get Rangers up the pitch that way, then I think he's one of the best at that in the team. And Davies and Goldson, both in their own right, really good passes of the ball. So I don't think at the outset that necessarily makes Rangers more defensive. I think if you had 3 defenders there who, when they were faced up against a defensive block, weren't able to, like Souttar, commit a man, or Goldson play one over the top, or Davies play one through the lines, then that's maybe a fair argument. I don't think that Michael Beale will necessarily go from the outset, because he's not done it so far this season. But then you're right, Derek, maybe there is something dramatic that needs to change. And I think what we see, what I've just seen through the comments a lot, and it's totally fair. Firstly, there's options not discussed here, like someone like Tom Lawrence, who I think if he's fit, there we go. If he's fit,
that's an interesting one. Where would he play? For me, and thank you for the comments, incidentally, for saying Cifuentes was playing with Ecuador. Apparently, I've totally had the worst ratings against Argentina, so that doesn't fill me with confidence. He comes in for Jose, perhaps, in that midfield. Cantwell, as I mentioned, if Cantwell hasn't shrugged off that knock, and then could he be a replacement for Todd, perhaps?
Yeah, hopefully he has shaken off that knock, because although he had a difficult last game against Celtic, I don't think anyone needs any convincing of obviously why he should be playing and whenever Rangers play. But yeah, I think the argument of is there enough pace in the front three is really valid. Fashion Sakala last season was someone who I don't think he was ever someone that Rangers were going to build a team around, and I don't think many people wanted him to be a player that Rangers built a team around. Now there might have been an argument: do you keep him as a squad option? But then when you get a good offer for him, and I guess that the money that he'd been offered as well. If he's not going to be a first choice pick, that maybe comes into that decision. What he did give you, though, I think alongside Ryan Kent was, and I think it was something like 20 of 23 league games that Sakala played under Beale, and particularly effective away from home. Think away at Hibs, away at Hearts, away at Motherwell, even up at Aberdeen, where his end product lacked. But he just gave you that route beyond pressure when teams gambled a little bit more. He was able to run beyond. He had real pace to take you up the pitch, and so far, again, we've not seen a consistent front three from Rangers, whether it be Seymour or Danilo in particular, or Lammers. We've not seen that particular front three, and I think if it is a Danilo, Lammers, and a Dessers or a Roof, let's say, as we saw away at Ross County. If Rangers are controlling the game and they've got a lot of the ball, I think the need for pace is less because, again, to use the example of that game, if you watch the highlights back, you look back at it, you'll see Raskin and Tavernier making runs beyond a lot, and there is a threat in behind. I think the difficulty comes in when you go back to a game like Livingston at home, and it took Beale going to the bench to have kind of legs in the top line to stretch the game. Now, those three players had not long arrived. It was the start of the season, so maybe that comes into it as well. But I don't think we've seen enough evidence there to say that pace in the front line isn't a concern. And if you have those three players together, do they have enough beyond being really good technical players and what they'll all have individually and why that's brought them to the club? Do they have that dynamism or pace between them to threaten lots of different defences domestically? So I think there's still a big question mark around that. If Tom Lawrence is back fit and available, he's a really good option to have in alongside Kemar Roof there. But I just feel that Rangers need consistency in the starting 11 and need to kind of nail their colours to mast with a particular front three and allow that to have the time to try and build relationships, to try and make it work on the pitch, because we as we keep discussing, there's been a lot of changing so far, and as a result, I don't think you've seen those kind of relationships form in the front three.
No, there hasn't. Robert Robertson raising the point. What team selection is this? Where's Roof? Joshua did say earlier, Robert, that he forgot to put Roof in there. But Roof and Danilo for me on Saturday. Bob agrees. I would go with Roof, Danilo in the middle as target men and drop Dessers. You're not alone there, Bob. I think that is an opinion shared by many. Just on the point about the style of play and what Michael Beale is trying to do, Ross Nielsen with the point here, is it possible the players we have just aren't good enough to execute how the manager wants us to play, whatever style that is? Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. That would worry me, Joshua, because he's went out there and identified these players and brought them in to play his brand of football. At this moment in time, there are so many questions just now as to A, are the players good enough, and B, what are we trying to play here? So it's this that has to become clearer starting on Saturday. And I just worry it's one of those venues, 12:30 kickoff. I'm not a big fan of these early kickoffs. I've got to say St Johnstone are going to be well up for it. They're going to be smelling blood as well. It's all about, I know I'm saying I want to entertain football, and ideally we do want that. But Michael Beale needs results as well, doesn't he? So it's a fine balance.
Yeah, and when he came back into the club last year, obviously these kind of run-of-the-mill games, he seemed to quite quickly find a formula for that. That hasn't happened this season, and you know, everyone knows that you just need results at Rangers to buy time. I don't think probably he would have expected for his team to look how he wanted them to look with this big rebuild and the onus he's had on signings. I don't think he'd have thought by the end of August everything's going to click. But you need results and you need indicators to I guess buy that time to improve. So 12:30 Rangers 12:30 away from home after an international break doesn't fill me with confidence. I think this actually, if the 20 Gerrard's kind of one of his last games away at St Johnstone, where I think it was Kent won a penalty and Tavernier hit that fantastic strike into the top corner, and St Johnstone scored through, can't remember who it was, but that was a 2-1 game. I think that was right after the international break as well, 12:30 kickoff. So yeah, it's not the type of game where you expect Rangers to kind of show their best form. St Johnstone obviously got that 0-0 draw away at Celtic as well recently, which probably gives them some confidence with maybe a similar approach of what they're going to try and do. but for Beale and what he's trying to do for his team, they need to perform. They had the worst possible end to the last month at the first block of fixtures. And you're right, I think with all the, it's only a segment of Rangers supporters are watching this, but a consistent theme is I think that people aren't convinced by what they're seeing, the style of what they're seeing, and then that you need that buy-in to have time to have confidence in what you're trying to build. So if Roofe and Danilo are fit, I'd start those two up front. Derek, I'd probably we'll get to our predicted teams later in the week, but I'd probably be inclined to go with Roofe and Danilo up front and Cantwell in the pocket behind, and midfield maybe of Rask and Cifuentes and Jack, or maybe I'd like to see more of Lammers, and he's not played many games yet so far. I know he's yet to convince many players, but he's someone that Beale's brought in for a lot of money, so I don't think he's not going to play. But whatever team selected, you're right. 3 points for so many reasons is a non-negotiable. If Rangers were to have the first 5 games of the season and only 2 wins domestically, that would
he can't afford anything less than a win for me, surely.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on a shaky peg as it is. Haggis light with the point just to cheer us all up. He says early kickoff and we'll be wearing some weird third kit. Always a recipe for disaster. I'd imagine Rangers will be. I'm just not sure what kit they will be wearing actually. Won't be wearing their home one, obviously.
The third kit, I'd imagine.
The orange and blue one, I think that is that not black as well?
Might be the white kit then.
Yeah. I think so. As long as they go up there and do the business, then please, Rangers, just don't ruin people's weekends, as has been the case for many supporters in recent times. I'll get to a few more comments before we wrap up. Denzel, the point about going up there to Perth, he says it shows you where we've been for the last couple of years when there's a genuine worry about going to Perth. With the greatest respect, Rangers should be dominating these sides with tiny budgets. I think they will dominate St Johnstone, but it's all about taking those opportunities. I think when Gio went up there last season, as I mentioned, they had about 7 million corners in the first 10 minutes. And you're thinking you have to score here, and they failed to do so. I'm really hoping that Harry Watling has been spending a great deal of time on that training pitch going through set pieces, Joshua, because they have to improve.
Yeah, but offensively, I think they've been quite good. Defensively, they've obviously not looked great, and that kind of lended itself to the European games. They had enough chances in the opening day against Kilmarnock to probably score from a set piece, and it was an area where they really had a significant upturn after Beale and, as you say, Watling arrived last season. That St Johnstone game just before was a perfect indicator of why you need to make the most of attacking set pieces. I think it was 20 corners Rangers had that day, and they were all outswingers. They all kind of felt very similar. There wasn't variation to it, and there was no real threat. I think Sakala got a couple of headers, but apart from that, there wasn't much threat at all. So it's the type of game where if you score an early set piece, it maybe opens the game up somewhat. But I think that's an area Rangers were able to capitalise on last season, and we'll hope to continue that this season, because it is always going to be difficult going away from home. But as I think the comment said a couple of minutes ago, the expectation naturally will be that Rangers go and win there comfortably. So that's always what you're up against. We'll obviously build up to it much more throughout the week and look a bit more at our predicted teams, which we'll maybe have on Thursday and Friday. Whatever teams put out, whatever happens, I think you're right that nothing less than a win can do, Derek. But also it's a first chance after that really kind of damaging Old Firm defeat to put on a bit more of a performance and put on a performance that has a little bit more encouragement to it, because then it's straight into Betis at home in the Europa League, isn't it? And that's going to be a big game as well to kind of set the tone for the European campaign.
Yeah, and as Francis says, I agree with Francis here. She says, get them training with the England squad. Yeah, may as well. I know they have been training at Auchenhowie the last couple of days, which has been good. And yeah, as one obviously that match taking place tonight, Scotland against England. Just a reminder, folks, Chris's excellent piece is on the website. I've bunged the link in the comment section, and you have this. Today is your last day to take advantage of our Website offer. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. Just £12 for 12 months worth of exclusive content. So many of you have signed up. It coincides with the launch of our new app, which is available for Android and Apple users. It's totally free to download, folks. You can't subscribe the offer. You cannot get the offer on the app. You have to go to the actual website, and once you sign up, then you can go and utilize the app and all the features on there. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Hearing great feedback from that. Long time coming, isn't it, Joshua? We've been striving for an app since, I think, the day we launched.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's great to have. Obviously, it'd be nice if we had some good football to talk about on it, but it's been great to finally get it sorted. It seems like people are really enjoying it. Lots of great content on there. Chris today with a really interesting article speaking to, as you say, Negri and Haitley and McLeish about that question. What is it like to settle in at Rangers when there's so much pressure to hit the ground running? What's it like for a new signing when they move country? What do you need to adapt at Rangers? Obviously, Haitley and Negri both in the ideal position as strikers to talk about what it's like. One who hit the ground running and then had a disappointing end to his Rangers career, one who took some time to get going and then had the complete opposite. So yeah, we'd encourage people to read that. Download the app. It's totally free. You can download the app to kind of get a feel for it, see if you like it. And as you mentioned, today is the last chance to get that £12 for 12 months offer, which will get you all your content over the next year and allow you to use all the content that's on the app.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Huge thanks to everyone, as ever, for interacting with the show. It's greatly appreciated. I'll be back tomorrow with Chris Jack, again, talking about all things Rangers as we edge closer to that return to domestic action. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye for now.